Welcome to the weekly deep dive. If you're anything like me, you probably feel like the amount of information coming at us right now is overwhelming. Between the AI breakthroughs, the stock market swings, crypto, and the general economy, I found myself reading endless newsletters and listening to podcasts, but barely retaining any of it. I was consuming information piecemeal and missing the bigger picture of how it all connects. So I decided to fix that. This podcast is my solution. Every Saturday or Sunday, depending, I sit down to synthesize the chaos of the week into one clear narrative. Listen, my goal here is simple: to practice articulating complex ideas, to ground myself in what's actually happening, and to help you connect the dots without having to read the entire internet. This is a passion project. It's not about the views and it's not about the hype. It's about understanding. So, let's get into this week's synthesis. I'm really glad you're joining today because we are tracking a stack of sources that frankly kept me up last night. It's honestly heavy stuff. I mean, we are not talking about the latest chatbot update here or some fun new image generator you can play with on your phone. Those days are kind of in the rearview mirror now. We are talking about a fundamental fracture in reality. Based on the research we've got today, it suggests the toy phase of AI is completely over, and the industrial phase, the phase that actually changes the physical world, your job security, and your bank account, that phase has officially begun. It is a massive shift. If you look at the last 2 years, we've been in what I'd call the paralytic era. It was magic, but it was digital magic. Now we're moving into the utility area. And when I say utility, I mean the quite literally. We are talking about power grids, massive heavy infrastructure, and honestly just the complete rewiring of the global economy. To get this into the right headspace for this, I thought I'd start with a story that jumped out of the research that I've done. It is the story of the bureaucracy hacker. It feels so grounded because it is not about a tech billionaire in Silicon Valley. It is a perfect example of AI hitting the real everyday world. So picture this, right? You've got a military veteran sitting at his desk just staring at a mountain of paper. He has been fighting the Veterans Affairs Administration for years, trying to get his disability rating adjusted. And anyone who knows or has dealt with that specific system knows it's an absolute fortress of red tape. It is a dense medical jargon, obscure legal precedents, and forms that literally just reference other forms. The sources note that this system is designed to be an attrition warfare system. Basically, if you give up, the system wins. But this veteran was stuck at a 50% disability rating. But he knew medically he should be at 100%. That is a massive difference in financial support, life-changing money that he earned. Usually, this is the point where you have to hire a specialist advocate or a lawyer, pay them a cut of your back pay, and wait 2 years. That was essentially the pre-AI reality, but this guy took a totally different approach. He took a look at all of his medical records, easily hundreds of pages long, and then he took the publicly available VA board decisions. These are dense, impenetrable legal texts that set the precedents. He scanned every single page and fed the entire mess into ChatGPT. And this is the key moment. He didn't just ask it to rewire a sad letter about how much his back hurts. He treated the AI like a senior legal analyst. He asked it to cross-reference his specific medical history against the legal precedents set by those board decisions. He essentially said to find the gap, to find the argument that aligns his injuries with their specific rules. And the results is just incredible. The AI wrote a claim rewrite for him, using the VA's own bureaucratic language against them in a perfectly formatted legal argument. He submitted it, and almost immediately his disability rating went from 50% to 100%. That financial difference was locked away behind a wall of bureaucracy, and the AI just picked the lock. It is an exoskeleton for fighting red tape, a weapon for the consumer. We actually saw another example in the research that was less high stakes, but honestly just as satisfying. It's the flooded basement story. A homeowner has a flooded basement, a total nightmare of water damage everywhere. The insurance adjusters are dragging their feet as usual, asking for an impossible itemized list of every single ruined item. They wanted the age, the value, the make, and the model of every soggy book and chair. It is the kind of tedious task that makes exhausted people just walk away and accept a lower payout. So, what did the homeowner do? He just took panning photo shots of the soggy mess in his basement and fed them into Microsoft's Copilot. He simply asked it to generate an itemized replacement list based on those images. It could actually identify the stuff in the blurry dark water. Almost instantly, it spat out a fully formatted spreadsheet with things like one leather sofa, approximate value $1,200, and a 3 oak veneer bookshelves, approximately $2,000. He sent it to the insurance company and they didn't even fight it. They just cut the check. This is what the sources are calling the killer app for consumers. For a long time, we thought the killer app for AI would be a slightly better search engine or a personalized movie recommender. But it turns out that the killer app is slicing through institutional friction. It is the equalization of power between the individual and the massive institution. If that is the consumer side of things, there was something else in the sources that felt like an absolute earthquake. In the scientific world, we need to talk about OpenAI's GPT 5.2. This is the hard science shocker of the deep dive today. So, to be super clear, this isn't about an AI passing the bar exam or writing a decent college essay. Honestly, we're way past that. The headline from the sources is that GPT 5.2 independently discovered a mathematical formula. It actually found a flaw in a widely accepted answer in particle physics. Human physicists had accepted a certain calculation as the standard consensus for years, and the AI just looked at the data and realized they were wrong. Without any human guidance or prompting, it wrote a formal proof correcting it. It corrected human scientists on how the universe actually works, and it wrote the proof in 12 hours. A human team might have spent years on that, or maybe never found it at all because they were too blinded by the existing consensus. That honestly gives me chills. We always hear the skeptics use the stochastic parrot argument, saying AI is just a remixer predicting the next word based on what it read on Wikipedia. Well, according to the sources, that argument is effectively dead and buried now. If an AI is correcting our human understanding of the physical universe, it is no longer just a mirror reflecting our own knowledge back at us. It is an explorer generating fundamentally new knowledge. So, when we have AI hacking bureaucracy for regular people and AI rewriting physics for elite scientists, that perfectly sets the stage for the core mission of our deep dive today. The sources we are analyzing are painting a very clear picture of what they call a physical renaissance. We are moving from a decade dominated entirely by software to a reality where digital scale violently collides with physical constraints, and this collision is creating what economists are calling the K-shaped economy. We have unprecedented winners riding this physical infrastructure wave and a lot of people falling severely behind because the digital economy is evaporating beneath their feet. Section 1 of the research deals with the death of code. This part made me sweat a little bit on behalf of my fellow friends working in tech, but the data absolutely supports the drama. We've got a revelation from Spotify CEO Gustav Sundström. He revealed that Spotify's top developers haven't written a single line of code this year. They have fully transitioned to AI generation. Think about what that means for the labor market overall, because the last 20 years, at least I know, I've been told, and the entire generation have been told, that if they just learned syntax, they were set for life. Now the job isn't writing the code because the AI writes it faster and usually with fewer bugs. The human's job is shifting from syntax to management. You aren't a bricklayer anymore, you are foreman seeing autonomous outputs. The Spotify engineers describe what they want the AI agent, to build. The AI agent then builds it, and the engineer reviews the final work. So the role of the junior white collar is just evaporating quickly. If one senior engineer armed with an AI agent can do the work of 10 junior engineers, you don't just hire the juniors, right? That creates a massive pipeline problem that we haven't figured out yet. But here's the paradox. While the labor value of coding is dropping to zero, the hype value of AI in the financial markets is just exploding. We are deeply in the mania phase right now, perfectly illustrated by the world's most expensive URL. The CEO of Crypto.com bought a domain AI.com for $70 million. He absolutely smashed the previous record, and he isn't even using it for a revolutionary research lab. It is just a consumer AI agent platform. It feels like a frantic land grab in a battle for cultural mindshare. It is AI washing. If you slap AI into your company name, your valuation automatically goes up. But there is a fascinating counter-narrative to that $70 million purchase. It is the efficiency shock. While the hype is incredibly expensive, the actual underlying technology is crashing in price. Look at ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok. They just released a model called Seed 2.0 that matches Western giants like GPT 5.2 on all major benchmarks. But the cost to use it is less than 50 cents per million input tokens. A year ago, that might have cost $5 to $10. We are looking at a 90% reduction in price in roughly a single year. So on one side, CEOs are dropping $70 million on a URL, and on the other, the raw intelligence itself is effectively becoming free. There is the commoditization trap. If anyone can run those genius level models for pennies, the economic moat isn't the software anymore. If the software is cheap and the code is free, the value always flees to the scarce resource. And right now, the scarce resource is the physical world. Which leads us into section 2, the physical wall. This is where the silicon meets the copper. We've spent the last 15 years in a total software world thinking we could scale everything infinitely in the cloud. But here's the thing. The cloud is actually a massive building full of incredibly hot computers, and the sources are screaming that the digital revolution has finally hit a hard physical limit. We are moving from relatively low-power chatbots to autonomous agents that will solve complex multi-step problems over hours or days. To do that, you need the most resource-intensive industrial build-out in human history. We are looking at gigawatt-scale infrastructure needs. A gigawatt is roughly the total power consumption of a major city like San Francisco. Tech giants are trying to build dozens of these data center campuses that each need a San Francisco's worth of electricity. But the glaring problem in the US power grid is aging, fragmented, and can take roughly 10 years to permit a new transmission line. So when local utility companies can't provide enough power, tech giants don't just politely wait. They are rapidly building decentralized behind-the-meter power plants on their own property. They are plugging directly into the server racks and completely bypassing the public utility grid. They are vertically integrating physics itself, because if you don't have the physical power, you simply don't have the AI. This brings us to the companies actually capitalizing on this build-out. What the outline calls the industrial Trinity. Think about that for a second. So, this industrial Trinity are essentially bottleneck solvers for the new physical world. And first up on my list is Caterpillar. They aren't just moving dirt. They are providing massive 2 gigawatt natural gas generator arrays that act as private backup utilities for the data centers. They are effectively selling mobile heavy-duty power plants to Silicon Valley. The second member in MCOR is MCOR, and they are the undisputed kings of direct-to-chip liquid cooling. When you tightly rack these next generation AI chips together, the power density hits 100 kilowatts per rack or more. This is the equivalent heat of running 100 hair dryers on their maximum setting, all stuffed inside a single glass telephone booth. It is a literal inferno. If you try to cool that with air, the chips would literally melt and destroy themselves in seconds. You absolutely have to use liquid, but you can't use water because that conducts electricity. You need a specialized dielectric fluid, an engineered synthetic fluid that does not conduct electricity at all. You are pumping this liquid directly onto the silicone through thousands of microscopic connections under massive pressure. Companies like MCOR have the skilled labor force that knows how to install this clean room level plumbing without catastrophic leaks. That is a massive physical moat. The third member of the Trinity is Honeywell. They essentially provide the AI-driven autonomous factory software needed to physically build all this hardware. While everyone obsesses over flashy chat apps, the real foundational money is flowing into natural gas generators, synthetic plumbing, and a factory automation software. The sheer amount of debt fueling this physical build-out is just staggering to look at. Big tech is projected to spend $560 billion on physical infrastructure alone just this year, and to put this in perspective, this is larger than the entire GDP of Sweden. And to pay for all of this, Alphabet just issued ultra-rare 100-year bonds. They are borrowing massive amounts of money today that will not fully mature for an entire century. Think about that. Your grandkids will be the ones that realize the nominal value in 100 years. And this signals that they need a terrifying amount of cash right now. And they fundamentally believe these cathedrals of compute will retain massive economic value for a very long time. They are betting the next century of human progress on this transition, but this incredible spending spree isn't lifting everyone's boat. And this brings us to section 3, the K-shaped economy. The top of the K is the wealthiest 10% of society who actually own the skyrocketing assets. The data shows this top 10% now account for 50% of all US consumer spending. The retail economy is effectively being carried on their backs. Meanwhile, the bottom of the K is a completely different story. Lower and middle class income brackets are severely struggling, with loan delinquency rate hitting 4.8% in the US. The average time to find a new job right now is 23.9 weeks, almost 6 full months of total silence and ghosted applications. We have a massive tech boom and a punishing labor recession happening simultaneously, a rich recession. AI is creating unbelievable wealth at the very top, but displacing or freezing the labor market for everyone else. And it isn't just hitting entry-level workers. Julie Sweet, the CEO of the massive consulting firm Accenture, sent an internal memo explicitly tying leadership promotions to weekly AI tool usage metrics. So if you're a senior executive making $500,000 a year and you aren't logging enough hours on the new AI technology, you're simply not getting promoted. It's a brutally clear message to the corporate world: adapt or die. Now we need to follow the money in section 4, the investment landscape. Warren Buffett is making a structural move right now that is incredibly telling, and we've spoken about this last week, right? He's shifting aggressively away from US dollar by issuing low-cost yen-denominated bonds. He's effectively executing the carry trade by borrowing billions in Japan and basically at 0% and using that free money to buy massive stakes in major Japanese trading houses. These trading houses deal in real tangible things like energy and industrial metals, and they pay solid dividends. By doing this entirely in Japan, he is heavily hedging against the US dollar and avoiding the overheated, AI-hyped US stock market. He is quietly stepping to the side into physical reality. So while Buffett plays brilliant defense, entire sectors of the tech market are being actively destroyed. The subscription software giants that have been the Wall Street darlings for a decade are suddenly in the kill zone. And because of the middleman problem, an autonomous AI agent can just go directly into the database and do the actual work, making expensive point solutions completely obsolete overnight. Just look at Figma. Their valuation plummeted 85% because major investors realized AI generation might make manual design tools drastically less valuable. This creates a massive risk lurking in the $1.5 trillion US private loan market, and private credit firms lend billions to software companies using their proprietary code valuation as collateral. But if AI agents suddenly destroy the core value of that software company, the collateral evaporates and those massive loans go completely bad. This is one more vital market signal we have to touch on: the massive divergence between gold and equity markets. Historically, these two asset classes move in completely opposite directions, but right now both are surging simultaneously to all-time highs. It means the global market is deeply, deeply schizophrenic. Investors are aggressively hedging against absolute disaster by buying gold, but at the exact same time, they also have massive FOMO and are buying tech stocks. They are literally betting on the apocalypse and the utopia at the very same time. And what average people holding the lowest levels of emergency cash since the year 2000, it is incredibly fragile, the situation that we are in. Which then brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, Section 5, Geopolitics and the Human Element. There is a massive cultural rift tearing major institutions apart, specifically between the elite AI labs and the Pentagon. The tech idealists want safety rails to ensure AI doesn't hurt anyone, while the Pentagon views this as a zero-sum arms race and wants totally unrestricted military capability. And within the private industry itself, the personal rivalry is cutthroat. The CEOs of OpenAI and Anthropic even completely refused to hold hands for a photo op with the Indian Prime Minister. They are fighting for total dominance of the next era of human history, but amidst all this tension, there is one core technical problem everyone is desperately trying to solve: agentic observability. If you have an autonomous AI agent actively running your business, you cannot trust it blindly because AI still hallucinates. Agentic observability is the human ability to watch the AI think in real time and see its internal audit trail. It is essentially a mandatory black box flight recorder for the AI agent. Whoever successfully solves this first effectively wins the AI enterprise market. So let's synthesize all of this. We started with the sheer magic of the technology. AI independently solving particle physics and hacking impenetrable VA bureaucracy. But then we moved on to the heavy concrete reality, the stark realization that infinite software requires finite energy. We looked at the drama or the dramatic rise of the industrial Trinity building the physical shell for the AI mind. In the harsh reality of the K-shaped economy, we are definitively leaving the Silicon Valley era of moving fast into digital gold and entering a new era of moving fast into the heavy physical world. The screen is breaking and the AI is literally stepping out into the room with us. Having said all of this, I want to leave you with a provocative question based on absolutely everything we've discussed today. The undeniable trend is that humans are rapidly moving from actually doing the work to merely managing the work. We are becoming the foreman on the digital construction site. But if the AI is consistently and constantly generating the code, solving the physics and handling the logistics, and getting exponentially better at it every single day, what exactly happens when the outputs no longer require any human management? If the human manager becomes entirely obsolete, what exactly is left for us to do? That is the trillion-dollar question I really want to mull over. As a practical takeaway over the next quarter, just watch the market divergence. Watch the real price of copper, energy, and industrial commodity versus the plunging price of software. Follow the physical assets that will tell you in real time if this entire thesis is right. It is going to be a wild, historic year, without a doubt. Thanks a million again for listening to this deep dive, and I will see you or hear you or speak to you next week. Take care.